Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. I have a lovely guest here, Marjorie Nass. She is passionately dedicated to champion women through the challenges of peri post-menopause. Her overarching goal is to empower them to rise above common symptoms such as hot flashes, irritability, and excess weight, guiding them towards a life filled with vitality, confidence, and energy. Drawing from her non-medical approach, Marjorie offers support regardless of a woman's choice on hormone replacement. She delves deep, addressing the root cause of hormonal imbalances, with particular emphasis on the role of lifestyle. With a wealth of experience spanning over 2 decades, Marjorie seamlessly integrates the principles of yoga and its ancillary wellness science, Ayurveda, into her practice. This holistic system she has curated is not just about addressing symptoms, but also unraveling their underlying causes. More than just providing solutions for issues like hot flashes, fatigue, and waking, Marjorie's integrated process is proactively designed to prevent potential future challenges. Having positively impacted the lives of thousands, Marjorie Nass stands as a beacon of hope for women navigating the tumultuous waters of peri and menopause. Under her guidance, many have rediscovered their health, redefined their self-worth, and reignited their zest for life, ensuring they remain vibrant and spirited for decades to come. Thank you so much, Marjorie, for joining me today.
It's my pleasure, Gina. I'm excited to speak with you.
I'm excited too. I know we were just talking about my peri post or not post, my perimenopause, and because I'm going to turn 42 in, oh my gosh, in December. I'm just thinking about it. I don't feel 42 though. I feel like I'm like 22, how I was supposed to feel at 22 years of age. So yes, so thank you for joining me today. Could you just share a little bit about your experience with, peri or postmenopause and how it has actually inspired you on your current mission?
Thank you. Well, I I had a good experience through perimenopause and menopause, and I attribute that to the lifestyle that I had been living through my mid 30s and beyond. And what I found with my clients who were not having an easy time is when I really put together all the steps that I had been taking holistically in terms of, and Ayurveda simply means science or knowledge of life, and it's considered yoga's sister science. So it's really all about lifestyle, and I live what I teach, and bringing that into my clients' lives really made a difference for those who were struggling. And for those who weren't quite in that phase yet, as I worked with them, they didn't struggle. It was a breeze for them as well. And so I'm about 7 years post menopause now and feeling great. So it doesn't have to be a sentence where your life is over and you're just getting old.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing that, because I really do think that it's all about how our mind and body and the connection and with our spirit as well. And can you talk a little bit about more what Ayurveda is? Because this is going to sound funny, but this is a new word for me. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. And, yoga has become so popular, and it's really the physical branch of yoga and some spiritual and some breathing. But yoga's sister science has been around for thousands of years. And it really, when I started studying this, it's like the world made sense to me. So we look at daily rhythms of day and night. We look at monthly rhythms, which is, the moon, and that's how women's bodies have their monthly cycle. That's in alignment. And then the seasonal rhythms and how those changes and how we can adapt to those. So in our modern world, we've really gotten away from nature's rhythms. We're working, we're up late at night. We're eating, rushed. And so it's really about how can we honor our bodies, because we are part of nature, and every element that's in nature is also in our body.
Yeah, so I've heard of the moon, like the menstrual cycle.
The moon.
It's menstrual cycle. Like I guess what the moon is related to the feminine energy, and then the masculine is more related to the sun. And then it's funny because I was just talking to my husband, because he was like, I'm so tired. Can you help me rest? I'm like, well, how am I going to help you rest? I said, okay, come here. Let me give you a hug. And then, is it true that, like, I don't know if this is part of your expertise at all, but just out of curiosity, when like the moon represents the female, and the female is more like a magnetic, and then that represents kind of like also a darker energy, but also it helps with rest. It helps like take away energy. Is that true?
Well, I'm going to look at it slightly differently because you talked about male is sun energy and women is moon energy. So if you think about a man, they are fertile every day. And like, it's like sun energy is just, it's there all the time. And for women, they're only fertile once a month. Right. So it's like the full moon is only once a month. And think about it. The moon is strong enough to change the tides, just tides of the ocean, because the tides are stronger at the full moon. And they're, that's related to women's bodies and our monthly rhythms that are 28 or 29 days, just like the moon. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense because, men are always fertile all the time and women are like, well, once a month. So it makes total sense. And that's what I have to explain to my husband sometimes too. Like, hey, I only am once a month, but whatever, that's a different topic.
Yeah.
Um, so many women like they face challenges with like hot flashes, irritability, and of course weight gain during menopause. How do you help them transform these struggles into like a period of vitality and like of course health?
Well, the first thing is beliefs. And a lot of women that I speak with, they feel that it's inevitable. Perhaps they have women or sisters that are a little bit older than them who are complaining all the time about the hot flashes. I hear that a lot of women, their friends will say, you just wait. You just wait and see how bad it's going to be. So that creates an expectation. It's like the placebo effect, similarly, that something is going to happen. And once we understand that because if something's common, that doesn't mean it's normal. And I always like to bring up that other cultures, women are not struggling the same way because they're living differently. And for most of us, we are not honoring the cycles of our body. And honoring the cycle that things are changing will help. So we look at really connecting with the body, how we're, honoring our fatigue, honoring our hunger. And that in and of itself is helping to align with nature's rhythms. And when we align with our sleep rhythms and we can dial that in and we dial in what's going to be not just the best food, but how we're eating. I have a whole system about that: how, when, why, where, and who we are eating with rather than just what. That starts to bring the body back into balance. And all of these negative symptoms in menopause, and a lot of women struggle with sleep because of their night sweats. When you're not sleeping well, that affects your mood. It affects your productivity. It affects everything. It affects your sex drive and it affects your weight. So when we start to look at how we're responding to stress, that helps to create balance in the body. And I want to say that how you've been living up until now is going to be reflected in your menopausal symptoms. So for women who have been not putting themselves, making themselves a priority, who are always putting everybody else first, it's going to show up in menopause. And that's partially an emotional thing. And of course, that affects our body.
Yes. Yes, it's so true. I with especially with eating, we were conditioned to eat at a certain time. You must eat breakfast, you must eat lunch, you must finish your food. But it's not like that. I think a lot of people are not paying attention to their body and listening to those hunger cues, as well as your body is actually there to help you and guide you. And you have to pay attention. Like if you're hurt some way, somehow, like I'm gonna give myself as an example, I'll use myself as an example. I was drinking for many years, and now almost 6 years sober. This month, actually, what's today's date? The fourth. Okay, and look at 3 more days. It'll be my 6 month anniversary, or 6 month, 6 year anniversary. So I'm excited. But I realized if I kept up with that lifestyle, I wouldn't be living exactly a life full of joy, I should say. Like I don't, like I was telling you earlier, I don't feel like I'm going to turn 42. I feel like I should have I feel like I am 22, but when I was 22, I was already feeling like I was 42 probably because of my health. So it's very important just to listen to our bodies and recognize certain like hunger cues and just to focus and pay attention and take care of us. This is our temple. This is where our spirit lives in. So we got to take care of it, right?
I love that. And I also call it like the house that you're living in. Like
Yes.
this is your one and only house, your one and only temple. And if you live in a house, you've got to be taking care of it or it's going to fall apart. You've got to be, if you wait for things, they're going to take a lot longer to fix. But if you're maintaining it, if you're taking care of it, then you won't have to address these emergencies. And I also talk about listening to the body's whispers, because once we
Mhm.
start paying attention and being more aware, we start to notice things that haven't been there before. And when you're feeling better physically and emotionally, everything in your life can change.
Absolutely. Now, what are some practices do you recommend for women who are starting to get, those hot flashes and weight gain? What would you tell them?
Well, it is individualized, and there's an overall, because each woman has been living differently and they're living in their bodies differently. This is where I go a little bit deeper. But for every woman, like we talked about, this awareness is essential. And instead of fighting against the symptom, and I use the hot flashes or night sweats as an example, if there's a lot of anger about that, if there's a lot of despair in that, the emotions are going to intensify those experiences. And so instead, how can we look at it like this is a sign that I need to pay attention to? And rather than just suppressing it or wanting to get rid of it, how can we understand what's going on underneath? So, again, talking about sleep and talking about, I don't even call it diet, I call it nutrition, how we're nourishing ourselves, how we're moving, and how we're talking to ourselves, how we're treating ourselves.
I love that. And I notice because people are always taking care of everybody else, but they're not taking care of themselves.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I was doing. I was like a yes, ma'am. And I was always trying to please everybody else. Or people would try to get advice from me and I would give them advice, but I wasn't healthy within. I was lacking sleep. I was putting poison in my body. I was also eating a lot. At a time, I was over 210 pounds at one point in my life. So, yeah. And then just those shifts in the mindset, and then you'll notice that your body will start feeling better because you want to take care of your body much better. And then you're just a happier person. And then everyone wants to be around you. Did you say you're a yoga teacher?
I started out as a yoga teacher, yes, and then I studied yoga's wellness science,
So
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda. And can you walk us through how these ancient practices can be relevant to transforming the modern women going through menopause?
Yeah. So Ayurveda has been around for thousands of years. So way, way, way before modern medicine. And modern medicine is amazing in terms of urgent things that need to take care of. Like if you break a bone or something, Ayurveda is not going to help. It can help you heal, but something will need to be done medically. Ancient practices are simple. They are very simple and aligned with nature's rhythms. And when we are taking care of our body over time and aligning with nature's rhythms, we're less likely to go out of balance. If you think about ancient times, and actually, it's not even thousands of years ago, it's a few hundred years ago, and there wasn't electricity.
Mhm.
So there wasn't light except for candles. So there was this winding down because there wasn't light. And we've all heard that electronics and phones are will interfere with sleep. And that's true, but it's also about the energy that's coming into our body. So this ancient wisdom of being with ourselves, being with our family. And when I first started teaching, there weren't smartphones. So there was less of this, and there wasn't social media. And I've just seen over the years that that becomes even more and more of a distraction. So I think what we can learn about this ancient science is being with ourselves, paying attention with ourselves, not looking outside ourselves so much for information. Because when we do that, that's when that's when we're disconnected from ourselves. So I think that's one of the main things. And also, this ancient science really looks at digestion first.
Mm.
And why are we digesting a certain way? If you do go to an Ayurvedic doctor, and there are plenty of practitioners around, the first question will be about your digestion. And if you're a woman, about your period, because those are the functions that need to be working well in order to survive. So looking at digestion, are we absorbing? Are we assimilating? And are we eliminating properly? So that's one of the first things that we can look at. And yes, it has to do with food, but it has to do with a lot of other things also. Is there more that you want me to go into about that?
Yes, definitely.
Um, so Ayurveda, and again, this really, when I learned this, this made sense to me. So the world and our natural world and our bodies are made up of 5 elements, starting with earth, water,
Mhm.
fire, air, and space. And each one of us has a unique combination of those elements. So some of us are more prone to be very out in the world and very fiery and very quick with temper and very quick with our thoughts. And for women that are like that, they're going to be more prone to the hot flashes because there's already excess heat in the body. And that's also going to be affecting their digestion. So when fire gets out of balance, what happens? We get burned. Fire spreads. And I love looking at the terms that we already have, like somebody's being hot-headed, right? And then there are people that have more of a heaviness, and it doesn't have to do with weight. It has to do with like a solidity in their body. And those people have more earth and water. And so those are the women that are going to feel even more sluggish and more tired. And I like the term, somebody who's a stick in the mud, like they don't want to change. They don't want to change. And that's water and earth, right? And then we talk about people like they're solid as a rock. They're earthy. They're dependable because they're so grounded. And finally, there are the people who have more air and space. And we have the term spacey, like somebody who's not as connected with, and these are all amazing qualities. There's nothing that's good or bad. We just want to look about how we're imbalanced and how that's going to affect us in menopause. So people like that, they have a lighter body. They're more prone to being colds, and they're more prone to, having like excess movement. And for women like that, they're going to get even more anxious if they're prone to anxiety, and they're going to lose their focus. There's going to be more brain fog, and their sleep is going to be interrupted more. People with those elements tend to be lighter sleepers, where the people who have more earth element, that's like somebody who like you have to wake up, like they will sleep through everything. And someone who has more air and space will wake up from the tiniest movement.
Yeah, so I think I fit into the not hot, I wouldn't say I'm hot-headed, but
Yeah.
the fiery category, because I'm very you know what? I thinking about it, I
But
do
we're
get
never
very
just
hot.
one. We're never just
Oh,
one.
okay.
We're generally two are the dominant ones, and then the others. So we're not one. I should clarify that. We all have all 5 elements, but we
Oh,
have
okay.
two that are more of the tendency.
More the dominant one. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And does it go also like, because I'm a fire sign, my birthday's in December, I'm a Sagittarius. Is that all related to and connected?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure. I
I
was
don't
like,
know as much about, but like when two sciences come in, there can be some
Yeah.
contradiction. So I'm just going to stick with Ayurveda for right
Yeah,
now.
let's stick to Ayurveda because I don't know. That's why I say I don't know what Ayurveda is. So thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that. That's awesome. Now, like for 2 decades under your belt and having assisted like, thousands of women, I mean, that's a lot. Can you please give like a standout story or like some type of testimonial that one of your clients had told you like, hey, I am just so happy and overjoyed.
Yeah. So I'll tell the story of my client who, when she came to me, and she had a lot of fire. She was working a very, very stressful job. She was traveling. She was carrying extra weight. She was hot, and she was so tired. She would come home and just fall asleep on the couch, and then at 2 a.m. would have to get up. And she was so tired that she had to kind of sleep some of the weekend away, sleeping late, trying to catch up on sleep. And she wasn't taking that good care of herself. And so we started working together, and we started lining up these rhythms. And when she starting her day off differently, because before she was like waiting until the last minute to go to sleep, running and then running behind for the rest of the day. So that's what I talk about. If you wake up in a rush, the rest of your day is going to seem rushed. So we worked on aligning her rhythms, and we worked on which helped with her energy. And over the course of a few months, a lot of things happened. First of all, she started sleeping better, so she had more energy, and we helped her create a morning routine. So when she had more energy in the morning, she was able to take care of herself in the morning. And what she found was that work was not a healthy environment for her. This was not supporting a lifestyle that she loved, where she could be really active, where she could have a time to take care of herself the way that she wanted to. And what happens when you start feeling better physically and emotionally is you start to look at your life. And she had always had a passion project that she'd kind of had on the side for years. And she made the decision to walk away from the job that she really wasn't enjoying anymore. And she figured out an amazing package for herself that she was able to be supported for while she was making this transition. And because she was location independent, she and her husband were able to move. They moved out of the Northeast. Neither one of them liked the cold. And so they moved to a warm weather state where they're able to enjoy themselves and enjoy their physical activities all year round. So, and she's working full time on this passion project, affecting people all over the country, doing something that she loves. So that's one of my favorite stories. And I'll add for another woman who came to me who was not sleeping. She had hot flashes 3, 4, 5 times a night. And when she woke up with the hot flashes, she couldn't fall back to sleep. So essentially, she was living on no sleep, which obviously is not a good place to be, but she was the caretaker for one of her granddaughters. And she wasn't able to give her granddaughter the attention that she wanted. She'd have to put her in front of the television because she was just too exhausted. And sometimes she would fall asleep, which I think she was 3 at the time, obviously is not healthy. And she was the first to admit like something could happen. So she got to the edge. So this is where, prevention can help this. But she got to the edge where she was like, I cannot do this anymore. So within 10 or days or 2 weeks, her night sweats were significantly reduced, and they were reduced in severity. So she wasn't waking up fully the whole time if she had a few. And we started to work on, her nutrition. And she started to be more present for her granddaughter because she wasn't so tired. And what's really cool is that she started incorporating some of the breathing techniques with her granddaughter. So her granddaughter was like learning her numbers by counting with the breaths. And she doesn't have any night sweats or hot flashes anymore. She has the energy to be fully present. And over the summer, she was with all of her granddaughters. So she was doing all the things that she wanted, going to the parks, going to the beach, riding horses, which is a love of hers. And then she had things that were projects that she had around the house for a decade, things that she wanted to clear out, things that things that you just kind of don't notice anymore. And then she went into her garage and she had these like projects, like painting. I think she was like painting old milk jugs and mailboxes that really became works of art that she loved and that the girls were excited about as well. So that's one of my favorite stories too.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. It's beautiful. I mean, see how like just changing certain things, better sleep, better nutrition, just overall will bring happiness to your life. And then once you're happy and feel that joy and just so like, your whole perspective on life just changes and shifts. And you're able to do more things, as we get older, we tend to have body parts of ours that are not functioning as they used to. But I love that you really focus on the holistic aspect of the body and the mind. And when you have those two together, I don't yeah, then the hormones the hormone imbalances that we have won't even exist anymore, I feel like.
Yeah. And, our sex hormones are going to change. We have agency to control our stress hormones. And that's what all of this does. And stress hormones do affect our weight. I didn't talk about weight, but both of these women lost weight as well.
Wow.
But it's about how you're living in the world. It's not just to get rid of the hot flashes. It's not just to get rid of the weight. It's not to sleep better. It's all those things so that you can show up happier. You can be a role model for all the women in your life, the women that are your age and the younger women. Some of my clients tell me that, their daughters are like dreading going into menopause. Some of them, if they're 50-ish, they have women who, daughters who are in their mid to late 20s and they're like dreading it. And, again, that creates that expectation effect. And I call it about being a cool grandma. So whether your kids are 10 or 20, most women those who do have kids, not everyone has kids. I don't have kids, but that they can be the cool grandma who's traveling with their grandkids and doing all the active things and going hiking and going skiing so that they can be there for them. That's what it's about. Yeah, there's hot flashes. Yeah, there's weight, but why do you want to do all those things? And showing up to your partner feeling confident, feeling attractive, and that confidence affects everyone and everything in your life as well, including work.
Oh, yes. And I love also when you mentioned that your client was like, you know what, this work is not what I want. And then her and her husband moved somewhere that they prefer to live. Like, listen to your spirit that's, speaking with you. Like, trust yourself. Your inner voice has has a say. And if you just follow it and just live that way, life is so much better. And that's what I've learned to start doing is just really listening to my inner voice and the one that's on my side, not the mean one that's in my head sometimes, because we still get those negative self-talk sometimes, but I tune it out and I live completely differently now. And I'm actually kind of excited as I'm aging because I feel like from whatever you're saying and the way I'm living now, my menopause probably will be like I won't even have those symptoms of irritability, hot flashes, and weight gain because I'm not irritable. So I mean, sometimes things, of course, make us irritable. I'm human,
Sure.
but I don't. As far as hot flashes, I get warm, but it's because I've been moving a lot in the house or doing things that are active, or it's very hot
That's not a
outside.
hot flash, Gina. That's not a hot flash.
Yeah, it's just warm, right? And then my sleep has improved a lot. I used to just especially when I started in my business, it's like there's no sleep because you're always like working. I'm like, no, no, no. I need to set like a nighttime routine and and then no screen time whatsoever, especially the TV. I unplug that sucker. We don't even we don't even have cable anymore. Like we still have Netflix. Sometimes we'll watch movies here and there, but we just tend to unplug the TV because that's just I always say call it caca TV. It's
What do
just
you
a bit
call it?
caca TV, like poo TV. I think caca is something okay, I won't get into that, but that's like a term for like SHIT, because it feeds us negative things like the news especially.
100%. If I could just interject here for
Please,
1 second, because
absolutely.
that is one of the things that I talk about a lot. And that's part of, eating is just one thing that we're ingesting, right? We're ingesting things into our mind. And one of the things about the news in particular is that, again, everything's coming at us. And if we sleep, that's going to interrupt our sleep. That's going to interrupt our dreams. And our sleep is about digesting deeper things. And detoxify is not a detox. It's about absorbing and assimilate and excreting and eliminating what we don't need. And that's in our mind as well. So if we don't get these deeper level of sleep, that's also why we're going to be tired. And here's what I say. There's nothing on the news that you need to know that you can't wait until the morning to find out. Nothing. If
That's true.
they're, in the very, very, very rare cases, there's an emergency, like a hurricane recently, like you'll hear about that a few days in advance. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
that's an exception. That's a big exception. But on a regular basis, you need to know what's happening. And it's all negative. And we need to put and it's being fed to us. And we need to expose ourselves to more positive things, because if that's what you're taking in at night, you're not going to have a restful sleep. Even if it's entertainment, it's still sort of exciting and stimulating the mind, which is also going to make it harder to go to sleep. And I realize this is a pattern that people have had for decades, and we work on that in with my clients. I work on that a lot because, again, there has to be this bigger reason why you're doing this, instead of, I can't just say, don't, turn it off. Some people can do that, but there's got to be some other things behind it. And that's where the coaching comes in.
I love that. I need to tell my mom that because to this day, even though she's 73 years old, she still will have to have the TV on before, and that supposedly helps her fall asleep. I'm like, okay, no, no, no. No wonder why she has tense shoulders and everything. Like sometimes I have to work out her shoulders sometimes because she's tense. Well, now I know why. The
Yeah.
TV needs to go, even if
And,
it's exciting.
I'm old enough now to remember, like, when there was news at 6 o'clock and there was news, even there wasn't even really news at 10 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And that was it. And then you woke up and you read the newspaper, and that was it. That was before 24-hour news. And there was just more space. Obviously, we're not going back to that time, just like we're not going back to horse and buggies. Although I feel like sometimes I'm old enough that I remember that, because anybody who's in their 30s and 20s doesn't, always had computers and a phone. But there's a simplicity, and the chronic illnesses that are present now, although all the autoimmune issues that are going on now weren't present then. And that was also, we were cooking for ourselves a little bit more. So there's lots of steps, but again, the first step is starting to listen to your body. You can do that with one simple breath. You and I have talked about breath work. It doesn't mean you have to sit down for a half an hour. It's free. It's just, before you eat, how are you breathing? Before you go to sleep, how are you breathing? And that will connect you with your body in the moment.
Absolutely. And I also love that your client was doing breathing exercises with her 3-year-old granddaughter.
Yeah.
I do that with my children as well. I just like family breathing time.
I love that so much. How old are your kids?
Oh, okay. So 15, they're all boys. So 15, 9, and then he's going to turn 8 next month. So he's 7 right now. So, and then We just love breathing. Well, the 7-year-old's kinda like, "Mm," but the other ones enjoy it, so
Yeah.
we try
Well,
to
the
do
little ones,
family things. I know, the little
yeah.
ones are kinda finicky.
Yeah, but he's going to see his brothers doing it. I
Right.
love that. I love that so much. And for those of you who do have kids, when they see you taking care of yourself, they're going to know that that's something that they need to do. And I talk about, women, it's for boys and girls, but for women who have daughters, if their daughters have never seen them taking care of themselves, that's going to be the role model that they receive. And then they're not going to be taking care of themselves in their own relationships and as they go on. So being an example of a healthy woman, not only are you feeling better, you're going to be affecting everybody in your orbit. I live in an area where where people come and they live after they're retired. It's not a retirement community. It's just the town that I live in. And I see these people walking. They are in their 80s and they are standing up straight and they are moving because
Wow.
they've always been moving. And like, if you see that, that's what you're going to expect. But if you see somebody who's in their 70s or 80s who's sitting around watching TV, that's kind of what you're going to expect as well.
Yeah, so right. So be the example. Be the example for your children. I love that. Yes. And I we try to set example all the time with eating good, reading a lot, less
Wonderful.
screen time, especially like because everyone who when they wake up, this used to be me. First thing, check my phone. Before I go to bed, check my phone. It doesn't matter. You just let it go and then
Yeah.
breathe and then just meditate or pray. And then you'll see your morning the next morning. It's going to be much better than you expect.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, where can our listeners follow you and find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah. So my website is my name, marjorienass.com. And on my website, you will find a masterclass called 5 Shifts to Thrive Through Perimenopause and Menopause. So that is the best place to start. And you'll learn how simple things make a big difference. I always recommend women start. And if you resonate with that, then we can talk. If you know you want to talk to me right now, you can just send me an email. Again, Marjorie, you can go to my website and contact me there, or it's marjorie@marjorienass.com. Very simple. I'm on Facebook on my personal page, and I have a free Facebook group, which is called Vibrant Through Menopause. And I have videos there. I do live and I do posts there that are helpful to women who are thinking about it. My program is also called Vibrant Through Menopause, and it's a program that is group and individual, that is the best way to help you go from tired and achy and not feeling like yourself. That's what I hear so many women say. I don't feel like myself, to going from that and feeling confident and feeling vibrant and feeling energized. And they'll leave having the tools to take care of themselves. So it's very empowering that they have these ways of taking care of themselves for the next 30 years, 40 years, and beyond.
That's wonderful. And actually, you answered my last question. Because I was going to ask, for the listeners who are, of course, on the fence or skeptical about the non-traditional treatments for menopause, what advice or insight can you offer to help them? And perfect, they should just hook up with you, this masterclass and the Facebook group. Yes, and then you have all the tools for them. That's wonderful. Is there anything else?
I just want to say that as a culture, most of us are tending to look for a quick fix.
Mhm.
And there's no quick fix. A supplement is that exactly that. It's a supplement. We need to look at the underlying causes. And I speak with a lot of women, and they're like, "But I'm healthy. I exercise. I eat healthy." And if that's the case, being open to the fact that there are things that you could be doing differently, because whatever you're doing right now is healthy, and active as you are, something's out of bounds. So being willing to be coachable and just advocating for yourself. I've had enough. I'm not going to wait another moment. I can help you. Don't try to figure it out on your own. If you Google menopause, you're going to find 28 million hits. Where do you even start?
Wow, I didn't know that many. Wow. Yes.
At least.
Wow. Go to Marjorie, okay? I
Thanks.
love the holistic approach. And I think, yes, if I ever have come across any symptoms or anything that's bothering me, I will definitely go to you.
Please, I'm here to help. Too many women are struggling, too many women are giving up hope. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be, that you're getting old. There is hope. So please reach out if I can. I'd love to help.
Thank you so much for being on my show today and just providing such value. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Gina. Thank you for all that you're doing and having me speak with your listeners.
My pleasure.